Gentlemen, here's a truth that most men don't want to hear. When you walk away, when you stop chasing, when you finally detach, she feels it more than you think. You may think that you're the one suffering, that you're the one who lost, but here's the reality. She's been feeling your absence, your loss, and the shift in energy more than you realize. Why? Because the moment you start focusing on yourself, putting yourself first, and stopping the emotional investment, you flip the power dynamic. Suddenly, you're no longer the one desperately trying to win her over. You become a mystery, and that, my friend, is a game changer. Women are emotional creatures, yes, but they also understand the value of what they lose when it's no longer there for them to take. You've likely heard the phrase, "She'll come back when she realizes you're no longer interested." And while it sounds cliche, it's true. Her ego can only take so much when you're no longer around to give her constant attention or validation. She starts questioning her own worth. This is something most men don't even think about. You think it's all about her feelings for you, but it's not. It's about her need for control, her need to feel like she holds power over you. And when you walk away, you rob her of that power. And here's where it gets controversial. This power struggle doesn't just affect her emotions, it fuels her desire for you. It's not about the love she might have had for you. It's about the space you create by stepping back. And in that space, she feels the loss in a way you can't even imagine. Now, before you think this is just manipulation or playing games, wake up. This is real. The moment you stop running after her, the moment you prioritize your life, she will begin to feel the weight of your absence more than you think. She'll regret it, but only if you stop letting her take you for granted. One of the biggest reasons why she feels your loss more than you think is because deep down, she relies on your validation to feel important. It's not just about love or affection. It's about her self-worth. When you're constantly there, offering compliments, praise, and attention, she gets a sense of significance from you. It's almost like an emotional currency she taps into to maintain her confidence and sense of value. Think about it. She loves the feeling of being desired, admired, and wanted. And when you're no longer giving her that attention, she feels a void. This void isn't just emotional, it's psychological. It messes with her sense of importance. She starts to wonder, why isn't he chasing me anymore? What's wrong with me? When she doesn't get the validation she used to from you, it starts chipping away at her confidence. It's easy to assume that women don't need validation from men, but the truth is, everyone craves some form of recognition. Women are no different. When you stop validating her, whether it's through compliments, interest, or affection, she starts feeling insignificant, and that's when the realization hits hard. She may have underestimated how much she depended on your attention. Example, imagine this. Before you step back, you were constantly texting her, complimenting her, letting her know she was beautiful, smart, and valuable. She could count on you for that emotional reinforcement, but once you start focusing on yourself and stop offering that validation, she starts noticing the silence. She realizes she no longer has you around to boost her ego or reassure her of her worth. This is where the loss hits her the hardest. She was getting her emotional fuel from you, and now it's gone. Without that validation, her mind starts racing, and that's when she begins to feel the weight of your absence. It's not just about missing you. It's about missing the constant emotional support you gave her, and it shakes her confidence. She's left trying to fill that void with other things, and none of them quite compare to what you provided. 2. Your absence forces her to face her own feelings. One of the most overlooked reasons why she feels your loss is because your absence forces her to confront her own feelings. When you were present, she might not have fully realized how much you meant to her or how much you impacted her life. But once you disappear, whether emotionally or physically, everything shifts. She's no longer able to avoid the emotions she previously ignored. When you were always there, responding to her messages, giving your time and attention, she could keep things light. She could avoid deeper thoughts, not reflect on her true feelings, but once you stop showing up, she's forced to sit with the silence. This silence makes her feel vulnerable, and that vulnerability forces her to examine what she feels, and often what she realizes is uncomfortable. Without your presence, she's left with her thoughts, and these thoughts often reveal more than she wants to admit. she starts questioning her feelings. Did I take him for granted? Did I even care about him the way I thought I did? These are uncomfortable truths, but your absence forces her to address them. This is where the emotional shift begins. Before, she might have enjoyed your company, but didn't fully invest in the relationship emotionally. But once you step back, the fear of losing you becomes real, and suddenly her own feelings become undeniable. She begins to recognize the connection she once overlooked. Now she feels it because it's no longer there. Example, imagine you and a woman were spending time together casually. She wasn't overly invested emotionally, and things felt easy, but once you pull away, stop responding as quickly, stop initiating conversations, she starts feeling the emptiness. Without your messages, your conversations, your presence, she begins to feel the absence in her life. This absence makes her reflect on whether she truly appreciated what she had, and it forces her to acknowledge her feelings in a way she didn't before. Your absence makes her vulnerable because now she has to face how much she relied on your attention, whether she realized it or not, and that realization can be unsettling. She might start questioning herself. Was I too dismissive? Did I really care? The silence becomes deafening, and suddenly her emotions she tried to suppress begin to surface. That's when she feels the loss, not just because you're gone, but because she's left with the reality of what she had and let slip away. 3. She can't stand the power shift. When you step back and stop putting in the effort, you create a power shift that she can't handle. For the longest time, you're the one chasing, the one trying to impress, the one constantly trying to maintain the connection. She was used to being in control, whether she realized it or not. When you made the decision to stop trying so hard, it flipped the script. Now you're no longer giving her that emotional energy, and she's forced to face the fact that you're no longer so easy to get. This power shift doesn't sit well with her. Women may act like they don't care about being in control, but the truth is many of them do. They enjoy knowing that they have the upper hand, even if it's subtle. But when you stop chasing, when you stop showing interest like you used to, the balance tilts, and it becomes something they're not comfortable with. It's not about you having more power, but about her realizing she has lost the influence she once held over you. At first, she might not notice the shift. She might think it's just another phase, but over time, it eats at her. The fact that you're no longer competing for her attention, no longer trying to make her feel special, shifts the power dynamic in a way she can't ignore. Now she's left to wonder, why isn't he chasing me anymore? What happened? And that question lingers in her mind, whether she admits it or not. The truth is, she thrives off the attention and admiration you gave her. She was used to being the center of your world, and now, without that focus, she starts to feel a loss of power. It's not just about losing you, it's about losing the sense of control she had over you. She doesn't like this new reality because it challenges her self-image. The moment she no longer has the power to dictate your emotional state or keep you hooked, she's forced to face the fact that things aren't as simple as she thought. And that's when she feels the loss, not because you're gone, but because the dynamics have shifted in a way she didn't expect and can't easily handle. 4. She realizes she took you for granted. Let's get straight to the point. If she feels your loss more than you think, it's because she's realizing something hard. She took you for granted. For a long time, you were always there, doing the little things, texting her, making her feel special, prioritizing her needs, and she probably didn't give you the appreciation you deserved. She assumed you'd always be around. She never fully recognized how much you added to her life because she was too comfortable in the status quo. But now that you've stepped back, the reality is hitting her hard. She realizes you were the one who kept the connection alive, who brought value to her world. You didn't demand much. You were consistent, and you were there when she needed you. She took it for granted, and the worst part is she never truly saw it until now, until you stopped showing up. Here's the thing. This is a harsh truth that many men avoid facing, but it's a wake-up call too. Too often men give and give without realizing that women, like anyone else, can get comfortable. It's easy for her to overlook what she has when she knows you'll always be there. But once you change the dynamic, Once you stop showing up with the same level of commitment and attention, she begins to feel the absence. It's time for you to wake up and stop thinking that being always available, always giving, is the best way to win her over. You're not meant to be her emotional backup plan. You're a priority, not an option, and when you give so much without receiving the same level of effort in return, that's when she starts to take you for granted. The power shift happens when you pull away and stop offering so much. Suddenly, she's left to realize that she hasn't been as invested as she should have been. Now she has to confront the truth. I could lose him. And in that moment, she sees what she's been blind to, the fact that she hasn't valued you the way she should have. So here's the lesson. Stop letting her get comfortable. If she doesn't value what you bring to the table, it's time for you to stop handing it over so easily. Let her feel the loss. Let her realize what she's been taking for granted. And don't make the mistake of falling back into the pattern of trying to make her see your worth. Make her figure it out for herself. That's the only way she'll truly appreciate what you bring. 5. You stop chasing, and that drives her crazy. Here's a harsh reality. When you stop chasing her, it drives her crazy, and it's not always in a bad way. It's in the sense that women often crave attention and validation. For a long time, you might have been the one running after her, giving her all your energy, making her feel special. But when you suddenly stop chasing her, it throws everything off balance. And let me tell you, this messes with her head in ways she can't ignore. At first, she might act like she doesn't care. She might even act like she's relieved or indifferent. But deep down, there's a sense of discomfort. Why? Because she's no longer the center of your focus. She's used to being chased, used to knowing that you're putting in effort to win her over. When that stops, she has to deal with something that she might not even fully understand. You don't need her the way she thought you did. This is where things get interesting. The moment you stop chasing, you become less predictable, less available, and ironically, more desirable. Why? Because women, just like men, don't want what they can have all the time. When you're constantly there, constantly trying to prove yourself, it becomes comfortable, predictable, but when you stop chasing her, you become a challenge that drives her crazy because now she has to work for your attention, and she hates it. For some reason, the shift in behavior is something women can't seem to resist. It taps into a basic human instinct, the need to feel valued and wanted. When you stop chasing, it forces her to evaluate how much she values you. It forces her to question, wait, why isn't he trying so hard anymore? And once those thoughts take hold, she can't shake them off. Now here's the catch. This isn't about playing games or being manipulative. This is about owning your power. You don't need to beg for her attention. You don't need to constantly prove that you're worth her time. By simply stopping the chase, you're signaling that you've got other priorities and you're not going to wait around for her to make up her mind. That unpredictability, that distance, forces her to recalibrate, and suddenly you're not just an option anymore. You become something worth pursuing. This shift in dynamics will absolutely drive her crazy, and that's exactly why it works. When she realizes that you've stopped chasing, she'll be forced to recognize what she's missing, and that's when the power truly shifts. 6. She hates that you're no longer her backup option. When you were always available, always ready to step in when she needed you, you were a backup option for her. And while she may have acted like she appreciated you, deep down, she knew she could always count on you to be there when it suited her. You were the one who would drop everything when she called, the one who would come running when she needed comfort, validation, or attention, and honestly, that's a position you should never allow yourself to be in. But the moment you decided to stop playing that role, when you stopped being her emotional backup, when you stopped jumping every time she called, that's when things began to shift. And let's be real, she hates it. She hates that you're no longer just there for the sake of being there. Because in her mind, that means you've broken free of the cycle she used to rely on. You're no longer an option she can count on whenever it's convenient for her. You've made it clear that you're not just going to be a fallback. You made it clear that you've got your own life, your own priorities, and to her, this is a reality she wasn't prepared for. In her mind, the safety net she thought she had, someone always willing to be there when she needed them, is now gone. That loss of control can be unsettling for her, and it forces her to confront something she wasn't thinking about before. she took you for granted. The truth is, when you stop being her backup, you're sending a strong message. You're showing her that you're no one's second choice. You deserve to be someone's first. And let's face it, no one should be a backup. Yet so many men fall into this trap, hoping that their constant availability will lead to something more. It's time to wake up. When she realizes you're no longer available to fill that role, it hits her in a way that's hard for her to ignore. It's like a wake-up call. The moment you step back and show that you won't settle for being second, that's when she starts to feel the loss. It's not about her losing you. It's about her losing the safety of knowing she can always rely on you when no one else is around. And while she may not admit it, this shift forces her to face something uncomfortable. She's now got to work for your attention, and that's not something she's used to. 7. Her ego can't handle you moving on. Here's a tough pill for her to swallow. When you move on, her ego takes a massive hit. And let me tell you, that's something she won't admit easily. Women, like men, have a sense of pride and ego that can be wounded in ways they don't like to acknowledge. When you stop chasing her, when you stop giving her the attention she's used to, she starts to realize something. You don't need her anymore. That realization shakes her confidence, and she doesn't like it. For her, knowing that you've moved on, whether it's emotionally, mentally, or even physically, feels like she's been replaced. She might have been the one who didn't put in the effort, the one who let you go, but when you're no longer there, showing interest or chasing after her, it's like she lost her power over you. This shift in power is a blow to her ego, because for a while, she was the one in control. She was the one who could decide when to give attention, when to pull away, and when to have you at her convenience. But now that you've moved on and stopped playing that game, she feels insignificant in your world, and that's something that doesn't sit well with her. But here's the thing. She might not realize it right away, but her ego is bruised because she expected you to always be there, waiting for her. When you move on, you show her that you're capable of living without her. You've regained your independence, and in her mind, that means she's lost control of the situation. That shift is what hurts her pride. This is something men often don't realize. Her ego is fragile. When you start thriving without her, when you start living your life without thinking about what she's doing or whether she'll come back, you force her to see something she doesn't want to admit. She's not the one who gets to decide the narrative anymore. You've moved on, and that's what stings the most. It's not that she doesn't care about you. Sometimes it's about losing control. Women can be fiercely protective of their image, their pride, and when they realize you're no longer emotionally invested in them, it's like the rug's been pulled out from under them. That's when the ego takes the biggest hit. 8. She's not used to losing control. Here's the thing. She's not used to losing control. For many women, control is something they take very seriously. It's not just about controlling situations. It's about controlling the way people see them, the way they feel in a relationship, and how things unfold around them. When you step back and start focusing on yourself, that dynamic shifts, and guess what? It messes with her head. When you were there, paying attention, always showing up, she had control over how much of your time and energy she could take. You were predictable, always around when she needed you, but the moment you pull back, you disrupt her sense of security. You've broken the pattern, and that's not something she's used to dealing with. Women, like men, have their comfort zones, and one of the most common comfort zones in relationships is having control over the situation. When you stop chasing her, when you start living your life without constantly wondering what she's doing, she starts to feel like she's lost something. The game she thought she was playing with you no longer exists, and that sense of losing control becomes almost unbearable. It's not that she wants to control you in a manipulative way, at least not always. It's more about the fact that she's always been able to dictate the terms of your relationship, your connection, and even your feelings. She's used to being the one who calls the shots, even if it's just by getting your attention when she wants it. But when you stop reacting to her every move, when you stop letting her pull the strings, the power balance shifts. That's when things get tricky for her. She's faced with something unfamiliar. She doesn't know how to regain control because now you've stopped letting her have it. And here's the truth. She might never admit it, but losing control over someone she once thought she had in her grasp can be unsettling. It forces her to realize that she's not the only one in the driver's seat, That's a reality check she didn't see coming, and it's something she's probably not used to dealing with. For a woman who's always been in control, this shift is jarring. And trust me, deep down, it frustrates her more than she's willing to admit. 9. She starts questioning her own worth. Let's get real for a moment. This is where many men miss the mark. You might think that when she rejects you or pulls away, it's all about you. But here's the truth. When you stop chasing her, she starts questioning her own worth. And no, this isn't just some emotional game. This is about real insecurity. For a woman who's used to being the center of attention, especially from someone like you, losing that attention can feel like a direct attack on her value. She starts wondering, am I not good enough? Was I never worthy of his time? Did I make the wrong choices? And while some men might think, well, that's a problem, not mine, it's important to understand that she's human too. If you've been the guy who's constantly showing her affection, constantly making her feel like she's the one, then when you pull back, the silence forces her to confront something. She has to face her flaws, her choices, and maybe even her insecurities. You might think she's just playing games or acting tough, but deep down, she's questioning herself in ways that you can't imagine. Here's the thing. As a man, you need to wake up and realize that when you stop chasing her, you're not just making her feel bad. You're forcing her to take a long, hard look at herself. And in most cases, that's when the real growth happens. It's easy to get caught up in the emotional roller coaster of wanting her back. But remember this. When she's left to wonder why you stopped pursuing her, she's left to question her own worth and what she's really offering in the relationship. This is where the power shift becomes real. It's not about you being better than her, but rather you forcing her to see herself from a different perspective, and sometimes that's what it takes to get her to realize that she needs to address her own emotional baggage and how she's been handling the relationship. Here's a reality check for the men who think their silence is just a way to win back the girl. Your silence is making her reflect not just on you, but on herself, and while that might feel like a win for you, it's a wake-up call for her. When you stop chasing, you give her a mirror to look at herself in. Be careful how you handle that, because it might not be as satisfying as you think, but it can lead to growth for both of you. 10. She feels the void in her life without you. Let's face it, this is the harsh reality that no one wants to talk about. When you stop chasing her, when you take a step back, she feels the emptiness. It's not just that you're no longer there. It's that you were filling a space in her life that she never truly understood until you were gone. You were her emotional safety net, whether she admitted it or not. Having you around gave her a sense of security, a sense of consistency. You were there when things got tough, when she needed someone to talk to, or when she just needed validation. Now that you're not there, she feels that absence. It's a void she didn't realize she had until it was gone. And here's the truth. It's messing with her more than she's letting on. Women, just like men, get used to patterns, routines, and the comfort of having someone to lean on. You were that person. And when you stop being there, it forces her to face something uncomfortable. The reality that she's been emotionally reliant on someone else to feel complete. Without you, there's a gap in her life that she didn't expect. It's easy to think that women are always emotionally independent or that they don't need us in their lives. But the truth is, a woman who's emotionally connected to you will feel the absence more deeply than you think. It's like pulling the rug out from under her. Suddenly, the things that seemed so familiar, the little moments, the inside jokes, the way you understood each other, they're all gone, and that creates a vacuum she wasn't prepared for. Here's the thing that many men overlook. You were not just another option for her. When you were fully present, you added value to her life in ways she might not have fully appreciated at the time. And now that you're not chasing her, she feels that loss. She starts to realize that you were filling a role she didn't know she needed. But here's the kicker. This void isn't something she can easily fill with someone else. The connection you had was unique, and no matter how much she tries to replace it with someone new, there's always something missing. The void remains, and she knows it. It's this realization that makes her feel unsettled, vulnerable, and desperate to get your attention back. So while she might act like it doesn't matter, deep down, she feels it. And trust me, she wants that space filled again, but she knows it won't be the same with anyone else. That's when she starts wondering if maybe, just maybe, she made a mistake by letting you go. Here's the truth no one wants to hear. She feels your loss more than you'll ever know, but she'll never admit it. You might think that moving on was the best thing for you, but it's the thing that shakes her world the most. She's not just wondering if you'll come back. She's wondering if she'll ever find someone who made her feel the way you did. But here's the real kicker. The moment you stopped chasing, you gave her the power to reflect and realize she may have lost someone truly valuable. The whole "I don't care, I'm fine" act is just that, an act. If you were really no longer relevant to her, she wouldn't even give you a second thought. I know it's hard to hear this, but it's time to wake up. She needs your absence to wake up, but not in the way you think. She needs to realize what she lost and how much it mattered. Comment below with your experiences, and let's talk about it. I'll reach out to you and help you see the bigger picture. This isn't just about her. It's about you stepping into your power. Don't let this moment pass without learning from it.